Oh, hello. Today on Tabletop Impulse, I'm going to talk about Warhammer the Old World, which is probably about as far away from Kill Team as you can get, right? Or is it? So the first thing to say is it's pure nostalgia. So I've dipped into my kind of photo archive here. I think I'm about 18 in this picture. But I think everybody that's been in the Warhammer hobby for long enough to now be in this kind of Dadhammer whirlpool that we've created must at one point as a kid, or 18's not a kid, 18's technically an adult, have played Warhammer Fantasy, right? Pushed models around on square bases. And I played this as a kid, and I played this when I was a bit older as well, and I probably fell out of it not long after this photograph was taken. Do you know, it was never my favourite game. I always preferred a bit of the old 40k. But I could see there was something I really liked about Warhammer Fantasy as well. I was happy to play both. At different points in my life, I had two armies. I had Undead at first, and then I had Empire, and then I went back to the Vampire Counts. So it was a it was mainly those two that I focused on. Big hordes. One mainly with shooting, and the other with, magic, I guess, backing them up. And it really is a nostalgia trip. So here's a picture of me looking really impressed that my castle walls have been breached, and my steam tank seems to be in close combat with some kind of terrible beastman chariot that's stopping it from shooting its splendid cannon at people. It was, of course, another game where I was never any good at it. Nothing ever went according to my plan. Shoot the enemy. In the case of my Empire army, shoot the enemy from this side of the table before they get over here. They would always somehow manage, in their perfidious enemy ways, to get over here and take me to task with their swords. But, we had fun losing. And in every story, somebody's got to lose. And I guess that was kind of my role more often than not. But I still enjoyed the act of playing it, and the camaraderie and the friendship and the stories that we told and the things that happened, even though in this moment I perhaps don't look like I'm enjoying it quite so much. And yeah, the game design is old and clunky, but it does mean you have more time to eat. Whatever that is that I'm eating. I mean, there's chips, and there's a can of Tizer, and there's some kind of anonymous battered cylinder. Tizer today not as good as Tizer when I was 18, by the way. They've ruined it. They've taken out all the harmful chemicals that tasted delicious. But I've joked about this before, like when people moan about 40k or any of Games Workshop's games that are big, sweeping, I go, you go affairs. Like, genuinely, especially in a big multiplayer game like this one, like the 15 to 20 minutes when your opponents are just sort of moving their things around and you're sitting there just kind of chilling, like that's ideal lunchtime, or just catching up about the events of your life with your friends. Like, yeah, it's a slower game. It's not Kill Team, you cannot, while you're playing Kill Team, you cannot take your eye off the ball for a moment. If you zone out while your opponent moves something and miss that he's moved, that's going to really cost you. Whereas in Warhammer Fantasy, you could basically fast forward through the movement phase, and as long as you could see the position of all the things at the end of that turn, you'd have a reasonably good idea of what was going on. So all of this is to say that I have fond memories of Warhammer Fantasy, although they are a bit old and sepia toned now. They are from a great many years ago. My wife also loved Warhammer. Unfortunately, there's no documentary evidence of her love for Warhammer, but I did dig out these two Bretonians that she painted a long time ago and took as a modern photograph of very old models. She really loved Bretonians, and she's got rid of most of them, but we found a box of Bretonians under the bed, and she was going through them the other day. So there was never any doubt. She's already bought the Bretonian starter box. I don't think she's built any of it yet, but there was never any doubt in her house that she was going to want to pick up the new Bretonian themed starter box. Bretonia fans and Tomb Kings fans are like the super fans of Warhammer Fantasy, because they're the ones who never really got into Age of Sigmar because they couldn't, right? Because their guys just didn't make the cut. There's the sort of half-truth, half-joke that, oh yeah, Bretonians are in Age of Sigmar, they're the flesh-eater courts, but this only serves to upset people that actually like, knights. So, those of you that have been tuning into the live streams for a long time will know that I've been saying for a long time that I have a lot of vampire accounts, and I do, and there's a picture of my vampire accounts collection, mostly painted. Not all of it painted, but mostly painted, it's certainly getting there. Or Soulblight Gravelords for Age of Sigmar, I should more properly call them, right? Now, I was planning to use these with some converter movement trays, like the ones pictured. You can also get 3D printed ones, and the free PDF rules to play Old World on the cheap. Now, there's a problem with this. Well, there's two. I'll say there's two problems, really. The first problem isn't a problem. I just wanted to mention it. So, there are certain armies, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's like 9 armies that are like the main supported armies for Warhammer the Old World that are going to get balanced and updated and FAQs and points changes and things. And then there's the other armies that are just getting a PDF list at release, and then they're not getting any balance updates. So that's Vampire Counts, Demons of Chaos, Dark Elves, Lizard Men, Skaven. They're just not properly in the game. Chaos Dwarves, they're just not properly in the game, right? I'm sure there's some others that I've forgotten. And like right now, like, yeah, you definitely can play with them. There is a worry if it's an army that you're going to invest in and go and buy a lot of models for. Like, first of all, those models are slightly less useful to you because you can't go to official Warhammer events. Now, I'm probably... Never say never, but I'm probably never going to go to an Old World event because it's a lot of miniatures to transport from one place to another, and it's probably not my scene, right? Because there are these people out there that I work with, one of them, that have just been continuously playing Warhammer Fantasy since Warhammer Fantasy stopped being officially supported, and you'd turn up to an Old World event, they'd all be there, and they'd all, like, have all the rudimentary tactics down to a fine art, have the ability to force you to charge the things they want you to charge and for them to force favourable. I just get the feeling there's going to be a skill gulf in competitive Old World, at least at first, right? And it's going to be quite disheartening for brand new players to get into if you intend to go to events. But you don't have to go to events. Right, so that's not a huge problem for me. But what might have been a little problem is going forward. They explicitly said they were never going to balance them. So if they've released a list and it turns out that some of them are just overpowered or underpowered or whatever, they've got no intention of fixing those. And then I'm sure people in the community will go out and go, well, we're going to fix them, we're going to comp them, blah blah blah. But it's a whole thing. Now, that part didn't really put me off. It was like a little splinter in my mind, at the back of my mind, but it didn't really put me off. The deal breaker for me was when it comes to basing. So, like I say, for the infantry, no problem. You just put your 25mm circle infantry into a converter tray, and you've got, because they're now on 25mm squares, so to go from a 25mm circle to a 25mm square, no problem. The problem becomes that a lot of things in Age of Sigmar are actually on a much larger base. So, if you think about Vampire Soulblight Gravelords, I should say, the standard cavalry, the Black Knights, they're on the oval bases that are they're a hair wider than the new cavalry bases for the Old World. And the Blood Knight bases are massive compared to where they should be, because in Age of Sigmar, Blood Knights are on a bigger base. They're on like a heavy cavalry base, and Dark Knights are on like a smaller base. Whereas in the Old World, they're on the same size base, right? Same deal with the Zombie Dragon. You couldn't put a square base under the circle base. The circle base would overhang the square base. So, if I wanted to use these in the Old World, I'd have to, probably rebase them or get some, I thought about the cavalry. I could, rebase them onto, old, small Warhammer Fantasy cavalry bases, and then put them in one base adapter for the Old World, put them up to the new bigger Old World size, and then another base adapter for Age of Sigmar to put them into the oval size for Age of Sigmar. There would have been ways to make it work, but I would have ended up with an army that didn't feel... Basically, I think, kind of ruined my Age of Sigmar army. It wouldn't look right. There'd be things that are on there that would look weird, all because I wanted to try and use it in the Old World as well. And I'm very aware that there's a new version of Age of Sigmar coming out later this year, and I might well want to give that a look. And I don't want to kind of destroy or vandalise the Age of Sigmar army that I've got. in a quest to try and make it workable in both game systems. So I decided not to stick with the vampire counts. Right. So the solution is to simply buy a new army. So I've not pulled the trigger. Right. I've more or less decided though to make a new army bespoken for the old world. So looking at the core factions, Mrs. T.I. obviously is collecting Kingdom of Bretonia, so I thought I would stick to one of the evil armies, you know, because while I'm sure the lore can be there for the Empire to fight against the Bretonians, or the Wood Elves to fight against the Bretonians and this sort of thing, like, the game and the story and the narrative are always going to be more epic when it's an epic clash, I should say, of good versus evil. So I thought I'd go for one of the sort of 4 evil factions. Now, those of you that tune into my live streams will know I've been struggling at the minute to get painting done. Why am I buying a new army if I'm struggling to get maybe this will be the thing I'm really enthused by, and this will just be a year where all I do is paint Chaos Warriors and all the projects I'm supposed to be working on don't get a look in. But I've given it away and said Chaos Warriors. Yes, I eventually picked Warriors of Chaos, as you've probably read off the slide, but just briefly, it was never going to be Orcs and Goblins because there's just too many of them. It was never going to be Tomb Kings of Khemri because I don't like the undead enough to have 2 whole different armies of slightly different skeletons, right? And I've already painted quite a lot of skeletons, and I always thought the Egyptian theme looked kind of weird for me, right? And then it was between Warriors of Chaos and the Beastmen. I never really liked bestial things. Beastmen got a lot of fur to paint on them, and they're funny little Beastmen faces that I just don't like. So Warriors of Chaos it is. And this also goes back to, you know, one of my frustrations back in the day when I was younger than the photographs I've shown. I play against my friend Matt. Not, funnily enough, 2 people that loom large in my memory of Warhammer Fantasy are both called Matt. One is Matt that I work with now, who has been playing Warhammer Fantasy since forever, but I've never played against him. And then the other is Matt from my childhood, who I used to play Warhammer Fantasy with a lot upstairs in Games Workshop in Chester, back when that was on Foregate Street. I don't know if it's still there. There used to be a nice battle bunker room up the top there. And I remember getting really frustrated because I'd be playing this game and I'd be like, right, cool, going to charge my halberdiers into the Chaos Warriors, and then there's going to be like a Block 10 free company that's going to come around the side and flank the Chaos, and then the Chaos Warriors win anyway. And I said to Matt, like, it's frustrating because I think I'm going to win a combat, and then it's like, you're just so much better than me, even when on the rare occasion I have the tactical superiority, I just can't, like, kill your dudes. And he's like, what you've got to remember, Phil, is that my Chaos Warriors here, it's basically like an entire regiment of Empire captains, right? That's really stuck in my mind. Now I can have an entire regiment of Empire captains. Okay, so I came up with an army list because obviously if you're gonna buy a product, I don't even got my random Warhammer. You got to list build first, right? List building is one of those things where, having not had to do it for so long because I've been all about kill team, it's like you're like, wow, this is so fun, and then you're like, also, wow, this is so fraught with, what if I do this badly and then I go out and buy the wrong thing for 30 quid and go out and glue an arm on that's the wrong arm? So I love it. I have a really ambivalent relationship with list building at Games Workshop games. It's like, on the one hand, it is actually really fun to go through and look at lists and that. On the other hand, I get a very kind of analysis paralysis about it. Like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to buy things and I've bought them, and then I'm going to build them in a certain way with certain options, and then I'm going to look in the book and be like, oh, actually, having played a game now, I realise I'm going to rip all the arms off these and put on different arms or whatever. So if you're like an old world aficionado, you want to give me some feedback on this. It's not supposed to be a cutthroat list, it's supposed to be a starter list that's going to be fun for me to learn the game and not have any particularly egregious choices, right? So we're going to spend half our points on characters. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Matt at work simply does tell me over and over, which is a hero hammer, so I'm going to hero hammer, I suppose. So we're going to go for a sorcerer lord for a mighty 235 points. He's going to have a hand weapon, heavy armor, mark of Tzeentch, because I'm going to put him in a warrior blob with the mark of Tzeentch and make a little wizard house, right? Plus mark of Tzeentch got a really good signature spell. He's going to be a level 4 wizard because that's all the spells, and loads of spells, and he's going to have the demonology lore because there's some really nice things in the demonology lore that look really cool. And then I have a Chaos Lord with a lance, full plate armor, a shield, Mark of Chaos Undivided. No, Marcus Slanesh, it's just output Mark of Chaos Undivided as well. Yeah, Marcus Slanesh and a Daemonic mount, right? Now, the Sorcerer Lord is going to go in the squad of 10 Warriors of Chaos. I feel like this is going to end up being a rank of 5 with the Sorcerer Lord in, another rank of 5 behind them, and then one Chaos Warrior at the back going, so I'm a little bit leery about how things rank up or should rank up in Warhammer the Old World. I understand that Chaos Warriors can go in regiments of 4, ranks of 4, because they're heavy infantry, so you can go 4-4-4. Whereas some of the smaller based guys have to go in ranks of 5. But then a lot of people say, well, you kind of want a rank of 5, because then against anything that you charge, you're going to get everybody in. And then some people are like, nah, you want ranks of 7, right? Because 3 7s is 21, so you can have 3 ranks of 7 with a character. But the problem with that is, surely, if you charge something that's if you charge a unit of guys that are 5 across, and they're on the 25 mil bases, and you're 7 across on the 30 mils, surely some of your guys aren't going to get in. So I don't know what to think about that. If you, as I say, this is in many ways a cry for help. If you're an old world kind of guy. So that's kind of some thoughts there. Now, the Chaos Warriors, I understand Chaos Warriors aren't actually, before I said, oh yeah, it's a unit of Empire Captains, people say they aren't actually that good. Now, they got hand weapons, because as far as I can tell from reading the rules, halberds are not worth paying for, because hand weapons are ensorcelled, so they have AP on them anyway, and they count as magical attacks. And if you upgrade them to halberd for a point, you gain the +1 strength from the halberd, but you lose all the AP and the magical attacks. So we'll keep the hand weapons. Heavy armor and shields. They've got the Mark of Tzeentch. Ignore the list builder. This is oldworldarmybuilder.com with hyphens, by the way, which is great, but one little idiosyncrasy it has is that for some reason the Marks of Chaos are checkboxes and not radio buttons, so it doesn't make you unselect the free Mark of Chaos Undivided when you click on the Mark of Tzeentch, which is why you're going to read Mark of Chaos Undivided in my roster. If I'd read it and deleted it, that would have been good, but here we are recording it. I'm certainly not going to stop this and start again. I've been talking for 20 minutes. And they're going to have a standard bearer and a musician, because those things are cool and I'm going to want to build them. And the Mark of Tzeentch. So the wizard's going to go in there, like I say. And the reason I've gone for 10 Chaos Warriors and not 9 is because, the Mark of Tzeentch says the unit must number 10 for it to work. And I'm not sure if that's the unit including the character or the unit excluding the character. So on the basis that it might be the unit excluding the character, I'm going to take 10 Warriors of Chaos and put my Sorcerer Lord in there. If somebody knows the answer and they know that it's including the character, then maybe I won't take the 10th Chaos Warrior. I'll take 9 Chaos Warriors and free up some points to spend somewhere else on magic items or something like that. And then we're going to have 5 Chaos Knights. They're going to have their lances and their heavy armour and the Mark of Slanesh with full command. And the idea is that the Chaos Lord joins them, even though he's on a bigger base, because he's got a demonic mount. My understanding is, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, that he can just go, he can join the unit. The back of him will just stick out a little bit, but basically you can have a front rank of 6, 5 Chaos Knights, plus the Chaos Lord on one end of the front rank sticking out the back, right? If I'm wrong about that, let me know. Okay. And then we got 5 Chaos Warhounds with no upgrades, and they're just going to basically run forwards in front of the Chaos Knights. And then hopefully what happens is my opponent, charges her knights into the Chaos Warhounds. The Warhounds all die, and then there's some Bretonians sat there, and then the Chaos Knights go, great, well now you've charged my Warhounds, so now we're going to charge you, and then they at least get to have the charge. That's the theory, but, Mrs. T.I. is not stupid, so maybe she'll find a way around that, but at least they'll be there being in the way, being annoying, doing things. And then we got 5 Chosen of Chaos, with the Mark of Slanesh again, and great weapons, and full plate armour. And the thing that they're going to do is the sorcerer has the option to give someone flying, hopefully one of his spells, like a massive fly move. So those 5 guys are going to go hurtling off the board and smack into something and try and murder it, like in the flank or something. That's vaguely the plan. Now, if you've got better suggestions for what I should do with 1,000 points of Chaos Warriors, let me know. Right, let's talk about an integral part of the Games Workshop hobby, which is buying stuff. So these are the purchases that I intend to make. So this Warhorde of Eternus is still in stock at a lot of places. Now, it's a really good deal. I'll be using all the models out of it except for the Ogroid Thermodons, which I could either flip on eBay or I could use as Chaos Ogres right in a later list. Okay, everything else I'll be using in my list. I'll pick up a box of Chaos Warhounds, use half the box, probably use the second half when I expand to 2,000 points. And then I was also going to pick up this Warhammer Underworld's Warband, because I really like that character sculpt. She can be the unit champion for my Chaos Warriors. And then the Sorcerer, be my Sorcerer Lord, obviously. And then in the back, the guy with the sword and shield can also go in my Chaos Warriors, which would mean that I could have 12 Chaos Warriors, right? So if it turned out that I really wanted to run them like 3 ranks of 4, I could do that. Or make use of them in a different list. So that would be quite cool. Like a few extra Chaos Warriors would be useful. Not going to use the double hand weapon Chaos Warrior for anything, like, but 3 out of the... Considering the price of buying a different sculpt I would like less of, like the single clan pack Sorcerer on foot, I may as well get these, right? I haven't ordered any of this yet. I've not done a kind of a glass half dead. I'm not going to reel the curtain and go, look, here's all the stuff that I've bought, right? I'm mulling it over. I'm probably going to pull the trigger on Saturday. So you've got 1 week to tell me, yes, do it, or no, don't do it, or, oh, have you thought about these slightly different things? I did order the MDF bases that I would need because we were looking at... Because, of course, this is all Sigmar products, so it'll all come on circle bases. Buying official plastic bases from Games Workshop will be really expensive. Buying unofficial plastic bases from like third parties, also really quite expensive. Buying MDF bases in MDF movement trays is really, really cheap. So this is from a website called Cicera... Not Cicera, that's a work thing. Something Precision. Just search for Precision, MDF bases, Warhammer... and you'll probably find it. But yeah, going to glue them all down onto there, put them in the little trays, and off we go. That's the plan. And then we've got to paint them. So I've been brainstorming paint schemes. I think what I landed on is I'm going to paint them this kind of silver. So some of the really modern releases for the Warriors of Chaos in Age of Sigmar, the heavy metal team of... So if you look down the bottom there at the Underworld's Warband with the black armour and the red capes, that's the very classic Warriors of Chaos, like the Ultramarines of Warriors of Chaos, if you want. That's how they were always classically depicted. But I really like this silver colour scheme that the heavy metal team got going on more recently. And I also really like the way the heavy metal team have picked out the unit champion with red. He or she has some red on them to make them stand out, and then all the mooks have not got that. They've got these kind of more natural tones for their cloaks and things, which I think is pretty cool. I like that. I think I might copy that idea, but I think I might do my spot colours like a really regal purple, but just with the rest of the armour being just metal. I think that would look pretty cool. Let me know what you think. And also, I think they'd look really obviously opposed to the riot of colour that Mrs. T.I.'s Bretonian army are going to be painted in that very traditional old school, like every knight in its own heraldry kind of colour scheme. Now, I've spoken to Zimbad. He's got like a couple of spare Chaos Warriors, he thinks. So maybe I'll get my grubby little hands on a Chaos Warrior soon. And I'll do like a test model just to see what I think, because those of you that tune into the live stream know that I often complain about painting metallics, but a lot of that is about base coating the metallics, and at least these you could start by spraying them with a belcher spray, right? And then you mainly be doing work with like washes and contrast paints to try and like dull them down, and then you do a little quick highlight at the end. I think that might work really nicely, but there's different ways of doing it. Some people really like the sort of dry brushing, like metal, like do 2 or 3 different dry brushes. Some people just paint it and then contrast it. There's a lot of really good tutorials out there on the internet for painting Iron Warriors that I've been looking at, that I can steal some of the methods from to try and paint my Warriors of Chaos as well. You got any thoughts on paint scheme? Let me know. Like, I briefly was entertaining other things. Like, I thought it would look cool if they were like bone, Chaos Warriors, and then sort of we look a bit like we might be good guys, but that sinister kind of way. But then Helen thought they might look really sci-fi. So maybe the earthy and the metal and the really ground them in the universe, and the grit and the grim is the way to go with those. And then we talked about buying things and painting things and building things. It's about playing the game. It's a really legitimate question. Will I, as a Kill Team player, actually enjoy playing this game? Because in many ways, it's the exact opposite to Kill Team, right? Kill Team is about like individual little models, having little tight little duels and shooting in really terrain-dense, congested environments. And as far as I understand, unless the old world's really changed things, like you don't need lots of terrain, which is another plus point, by the way. You don't need a lot of terrain. It's played on a big empty field. Difference is kind of good. Like, I talked before about Star Wars Shatterpoint, which is another game that I did a video much like this on and decided I was definitely going to get into, and then have bought some stuff and not painted it. And maybe I'm fated to do the same with the old world, but we'll see. Someone in the Discord said to me, like, you've got to go where, at the moment you're struggling to get motivated to paint anything. If you're really motivated out of a project, I say go out and buy it, and then you get it painted. At least you're painting and doing the thing and not just sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. So there is that as well. But yeah, I still intend to get into Shatterpoint, I do, but there is a truism that says, well, like, Shatterpoint and Kill Team, like, they both tickle the same mood, or are very similar. They're not obviously the same games, a lot of differences, but they also are very similar in terms of what they are. They're, small, skirmish, individual character, alternating activation type things, right? So, this is very different. It's going to scratch a different itch. It's going to provide a bit more texture to my gaming life, right? Which is kind of a nice thing. It always frustrates me, and it frustrates Inbad as well. It's something we say a lot. Like, people on the Discord get very tribal about, like, this game is the best game, and this game's the best game, and that game's the best game. And it's like, that may be the best game, but do you just want to play that one game over and over? Like, we acknowledge that they're a different game. Most people I talk to play a lot of different games, and the whole point of doing that is that they're different. If every game just stole all your favourite mechanics from your favourite game, then every game will be the same game, right? So there's an element to which it's this being as different as it can be to the game that I love is kind of a good thing. But also there's one way which is really similar to Kill Team, if you think about it in a weird, sideways way. So my 1,000-point list as outlined above is going to have 4 pieces that I'm moving around the table. So in a way, it's like a super low model count game. Yeah, okay, each unit is made up of like 10 models or whatever, but like, they're just wound counters, really. Right, really, you're going to have the warrior squad with attached character, the knights with attached character, right, the dogs, and the chosen. That's the army. It's 4 pieces. It's 4 guys. It's like playing Custodes. It's going to be super low cognitive load in a way, because you've only got to track 4 things. That sounds really good. One of the things that annoys me sometimes about 40k is the movements in 40k is not as abstract as I would like it to be. Do you know, it annoys me when you're like, okay, that squad shoots that squad, and then your opponent's like, well, actually, those 3 can see, but like this one's behind a pillar, and this one's here. And like, I haven't precisely like thought about where I'm putting all 10 guys in that squad when I move them. I kind of move one guy reasonably precisely for charge ranges, and then I kind of pick up the other guys and put them around that one other guy. And then when that comes back to bite me in the ass, I'm always a little bit vexed. I'm like, oh god, I really have to like move each element of this squad with individual precision, and I'd be like, oh well, where exactly is the flamethrower? Well, the flamethrower needs to be like over here because he's got to have the. And 40k is very fiddly, and it's fine to be fiddly. Kill Team's fiddly, right? But also, there's just a lot of pieces. I once played a game, not the current edition of 40k, I once played a game of 40k where it was like, I was playing Sisters of Battle against Orcs. And a lot of flamethrowers because Sisters of Battle, so the Orc player was like, cool, I'm going to tediously spread out all of my Orcs so that they're all exactly like 2 inches apart from each other, or however wide away each other Orcs could possibly be, just so that your flamethrowers can never kill more than like 3 Orcs. Which is, yeah, perfectly valid, but kind of... 40k is in a weird place where it evolved from almost being a skirmish game itself, right? Like, 40k armies used to be like 2 squads of Marines, Marneus, Calgar, a Rhino, and a Dreadnought. That would be like a full army pretty well in 2nd edition, maybe, and an assassin, right? And then 40k armies got bigger, and it's cool to have all those models on the tabletop, but it's always been but everything's on round bases and skirmishes around, so you have to kind of care where every individual Marine is stood, and then loads of people don't, and they play the movement really loose, which is cool, and then you play against someone that wants to play it by the actual rules, fancy that, and you're like, well, okay, now I have to worry about exactly what this rocket launcher can or can't see, and we're not just going to go, yeah, that squad can see that squad, go for it, which is fine, it's the rules of the game, but it is a little bit like, this shouldn't have that, right? Because the models individually, don't get me wrong, the movement in Warhammer Fantasy always had to be very precise with the wheeling and the flanking and the marching, but being very precise when you've got 4 things is different to being very precise when you've got, how many models in a combat patrol army in 40k? Like, a Dreadnought, 2 squads of 5, you've already got, 11 and a character 12, and maybe you've got a tank, you're going to have 50, let's say 15. For a smaller scale 40k, you're going to have 15 individual things where, in theory, if you're playing properly, you have to care about the physical location of all of those things. So that's also kind of a draw for the old world. It's it's big scale gaming, but in a sort of sideways way. It's not. I hope that ramble's made a little bit of sense to somebody, because it's not something I've ever heard anybody say. Because everyone knows what rank and flank game is, but I think there's this whole audience of people out there now that have never played a rank and flank game, and they just be like, oh, it's like Age of Sigmar. But no, it's very different to Age of Sigmar in this one key way, right? In that you're not moving a squad where you have to. I'm just going to repeat the point for a 3rd time. But hopefully you get. If you don't, ask me again. I probably explained it really badly. Ask me again in the description. I'll try and explain it another time. And I could be really wrong, but that's just my thought on the issue. And almost the thing I was talking about before, asking for help with, should I go for 3 ranks of 4 or 2 ranks of 5 or whatever it is. That's you're almost outsourcing the finicky bit of the movement to before the game. I know you can reform mid-game, and there's rules for that, but if it's anything like Warhammer Fantasy of old, you'll almost never reform a unit. Unless, a unit is really out of position, and you've got to go and march or something, or something like that. But, almost never remember reforming units, particularly. So, food for thought. Right, I've rambled for long enough. What are we on? Half an hour plus, yeah. Do you have any interest in the old world? Let me know in the comments. Maybe you do. I know some of you do. I've been watching Honest Minis. Hopefully that's the name of the channel. Really like that channel, but I missed he used to have a sting at the start of all his videos that went boop, 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 and he got rid of it. And he did a really cool video about the old world. He's done a couple of really cool videos about the old world because he really loves the old world. I actually think he's been using Kill Team as his Warhammer the Old World waiting room. So I know that and my old mate Matt, who you should play fantasy with, has commented on my videos and popped into one of the live streams before now. So I know he's working on Beastman for the old world. So I know some of you old world guys are out there. So show me some love. I also know that there are people in the audience who are like, this isn't Kill Team, just play Kill. Frankly, the people who just love Kill Team probably aren't still here. There are other people that care more about their channels metrics and growth and demographics who probably wouldn't have put a 40-minute old world video on their ostensibly Kill Team channel. I don't know what to tell you. It's not a variety channel. I'm not like Atomic Shrimp where it's going to go from IT e-safety tips to how to forage mushrooms, but I am at least going to be a variety guy within the thing of tabletop wargaming, which is why it's called Tabletop Impulse and not Kill Team Impulse, Team Kill Team. Yeah. But if you want to say, hey, play Kill Team, that's it is useful feedback though. I don't want to make content that nobody likes. I guess if you really just want Kill Team, smash that dislike button. It's all engagement. But if you are a big old world expert, I'd love to hear from you. If there's anything I really need to do differently in my 1k army list, remember, I'm not trying to win desperately or be desperately competitive, but neither do I want to waste my money or build my models in a way that's really I don't want to do an obvious clanger. For example, I like to think given the way the ensorcelled weapons rule works. If I hadn't noticed that, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to build my Chaos Warriors with halberds, because halberds are cool, somebody would come along and point out and be like, actually, you're probably building your models wrong and wasting points. Because I know whenever I mention like building your models wrong, Zimbad always pops up and says, you can't build your models wrong, just build what's cooler. And it's like, yeah, but what if I don't think a halberd or a sword is inherently cooler, and I just want to, I think there are occasionally really wrong choices in these games. Not as often as like the Auspex Tactics of the world really care about where they're going to grind it out to like the third decimal place. But sometimes, especially when Games Workshop are making rule sets for models that exist, but they haven't necessarily cared to make all the options viable. Like in 40k, giving a sergeant a bolt pistol when he could have a free plasma pistol. If you somehow hadn't noticed that, it's like, that's just wrong. So I don't want to make any wrong choices. Yeah. So let me know. All comments are read and responded to still. At one day, the channel will grow so large that I won't be able to respond to every comment, but we haven't got there yet. If I haven't responded to a comment, it's because I didn't understand it. Okay? Or if it's very new, I just haven't got around to it. But generally speaking, all the comments that I comprehend at least get a response. Okay, and if you want the channel to continue growing, do the liking, the subscribing, all those things. You can hit the bell if you want, but it's very annoying. But if you really love me, you'd hit the bell, I don't know. Right, thanks, goodbye, have a good one. Cheerio, good night, bye-bye. All those things. Bye-bye, bye. Bye.